Deep in Kenya's Shakahola forest, hundreds of lives vanished under the guise of prophecy. They were told death was salvation. But as the bodies were exhumed, a darker truth emerged. This was not faith, it was fanaticism. This is the story of the cult that died believing death would meet Jesus. In Malindi, on Kenya's coast, there lived a man named Pastor Mackenzie, founder of Good News International Church. Once a taxi driver, over time he built a following, believers drawn to promises of healing, spiritual truth, and an urgent message. The world was ending. Mackenzie preached that worldly institutions, hospitals, schools, identity documents, were tools of evil or satanic influence. His followers were reassured that ultimate joy lay beyond the physical world. Prayer, fasting, and separation from modern life became his doctrine. Beginnings were subtle: skip school, distrust authority, have faith. But gradually, Mackenzie told his congregation that true salvation would require more, much more. Not just abstaining from modern comforts. Complete renunciation of food. Fasting unto death. Death, he said, would be exalted if done in faith. Some parents removed their children from school. Some members were told that illnesses need not hospitals but spiritual healing. Followers moved deeper into isolation. Meanwhile, warnings from neighbors, family members, sometimes even local officials, fell on deaf ears. By early 2023, followers were being gathered in the Shakahola forest, a remote, densely wooded area, far from the prying eyes of city life. They came hoping for divine meeting. But what faced them was starvation. Children, women, men went without food. Some died of hunger. Others of suffocation, neglect, even violence. Bodies were buried in shallow graves across a vast tract of forest, hundreds of bodies. In April, the horror finally broke. Locals alerted authorities. Mass graves were discovered. The scale was beyond anything Kenya had ever seen. Over 400 corpses, many of them children. Autopsies revealed starvation as the leading cause of death. But there were darker layers, signs of suffocation, assault in some cases. It was not just belief that killed, it was coercion, abuse. Survivors, frail and traumatized, were pulled from the forest. Children who'd been starved, mothers who'd lost everything. DNA tests began to match bodies to families. The process was slow, heavy with heartbreak. Authorities charged Pastor Mackenzie and dozens of co-accused. Charges: murder, manslaughter, cruelty to children, radicalization, organized criminal activity, possibly terrorism. The courts heard stories no human should endure: parents turning on children under doctrine, entire families wiped out. One witness lost 12 relatives, only 2 bodies recovered and buried. Another identified via DNA the remains of their loved ones. Mackenzie, pleading not guilty, awaits trial. Some of his followers are also charged. The state is under pressure. How could so many lives be lost without earlier intervention? Critics argue there were warning signs: missing children, reports from households, growing radical teachings that authorities missed or underreacted to. Shakahola is a warning, a chilling example of what can happen when faith is twisted into control, when prophecy becomes coercion, and when human rights are ignored in favor of doctrine. Families are still seeking closure. Dozens remain missing. Survivors still bear scars, seen and unseen. As citizens, as believers, as people, we must ask, how do we prevent another tragedy hidden behind sermons and sacred texts? If you found this story disturbing, important, or want to share in order to raise awareness, hit the like button, subscribe, and turn on notifications so this kind of story isn't forgotten. Because sometimes, the only thing standing between truth and tragedy is our willingness to hear.